You ever experienced something so disturbing? It felt like the universe was targeting you? These aren't coincidences, they're warnings, and the people who lived through them are still haunted by what happened. I've never believed in signs or fate or whatever. I'm not superstitious. Or at least, I wasn't, until something happened to me last summer that I still can't explain. I'm not saying it was supernatural, but it was too specific, too precise to just be a coincidence. I had just moved to Nashville from Minneapolis. I got a remote job in marketing and wanted a change of scenery. Found a cheap studio apartment in East Nashville. Nothing special. It was one of those older places, creaky floors, weirdly shaped bathroom, noisy pipes. But I liked it. It felt private. I didn't know anyone in the city, which I actually liked. Fresh start, no drama, no expectations. The only neighbor I really interacted with was this older guy named Russ who lived in the unit next to mine. He was probably in his 60s. Always wore this faded Titans hoodie and cargo shorts no matter the weather. He was quiet, kind of awkward, but polite. We'd nod or say a few words when passing each other. I'd see him smoking on his balcony late at night sometimes, just staring out at nothing. He seemed lonely, honestly. Anyway, a few weeks after I moved in, weird stuff started happening. Small stuff at first. My phone alarm would go off at random times in the night, even though I hadn't set it. Once it rang at exactly 4:13 a.m., which I figured was just a glitch. Another time I found my kitchen cabinet open when I was sure I'd closed it. I kept brushing it off, told myself I was tired, maybe I bumped something, maybe I forgot. That kind of thing, but then it escalated. One afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. No name, no voicemail. I didn't answer. Then I got a text from the same number. It said, "Do you lock your window at night?" No other message, just that. I felt this weird tightness in my chest, like someone had dropped a weight on me. I responded with, "Who is this?" but got nothing back. I started checking every lock in the apartment. I even pushed my dresser in front of the window that night. I didn't sleep much. The next morning, I found something on my balcony. It was a feather, a single gray feather, just laying in the middle of the concrete. Nothing around it, no birds in sight. I know that doesn't sound scary, but it was just so deliberate, like it had been placed there. I was too freaked out to eat breakfast. I took the feather inside and threw it in the trash. Then I went to check my window and noticed something else. The dresser I had shoved in front of it had moved. Only slightly, but I knew I hadn't touched it. That's when I remembered something. Ruski. He had the same layout as me. His unit mirrored mine, which meant if someone wanted to cross over from one balcony to the next, they probably could. I told myself I was being paranoid, but something in my gut was screaming. That night, I stayed up later than usual, just sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the window. Around 2:30 a.m., I heard something. A soft, metallic rattle. I killed the lights and crouched near the corner of the curtain, peeking through just an inch. And I swear to God, I saw a shadow move across Russ's balcony. It didn't walk. It crawled, like someone trying to stay low, trying not to be seen. I backed away from the curtain so fast I knocked over my laundry basket. The sound must have startled them because I heard the shuffle of retreating steps. Then silence. I called the cops, told them I thought someone had been on my balcony. They came, looked around, didn't see anything. I asked if they could talk to Russ. One of the officers did a quick knock on his door, but he didn't answer. They said to call again if anything else happened and left. The next day, I didn't see Russ. No lights on in his apartment. Nothing. That night, I barely slept. I kept all the lights on, sat on my couch with a baseball bat and my phone at 100% battery. Nothing happened. But the day after that, something did. I had gone out to grab groceries. I wasn't gone more than an hour. When I got back, I noticed my door was unlocked. Now here's the thing, I'm obsessive about locking up. I check it 3 times before leaving. There's no way I forgot. I stepped inside, heart pounding, and immediately knew something was off. There was this smell, like dirt and sweat. Not strong, just faint enough to notice. I walked through the apartment slowly. Nothing looked stolen, nothing obvious. But when I got to my bedroom, I saw it, another feather. This one was on my pillow, same size, same color, perfectly centered. I backed out of the room, locked myself in the bathroom, and called 911 again. They came quickly, checked the place top to bottom. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing. They said maybe I'd dropped the feather there without realizing. I wanted to scream. I told them about Russ, about the crawling shadow, about the messages. They said they'd look into it. That night, I slept at a friend's place across town, just to clear my head. The next morning, I got a call. It was the property manager. He said, "Hey, did you hear about Russ?" I said no. He told me Russ was dead. They found him that morning, slumped over in a lawn chair on his balcony. No signs of struggle, no drugs or alcohol, just dead, like he'd stopped existing in the middle of a thought. But here's where it gets insane. They think he'd been dead for at least 3 days. I said, "No, that can't be right. I saw him 2 nights ago." But they were sure. The ME said there was no way he'd been alive recently, which means whoever I saw on his balcony wasn't him. And remember those feathers? When they cleaned out Russ's apartment, they found dozens of them stuffed into drawers, piled behind the fridge, taped to the back of his bathroom mirror. No one could explain it. The cops eventually stopped following up. There was no case to pursue, no forced entry, no evidence. But I moved out the next week. To this day, I can't figure it out. Was Russ trying to warn me? Was someone using his apartment to get into mine? Or was this something worse, something that used him? Either way, I don't think it was random. It was too calculated, too quiet, too creepy to be a coincidence. As terrifying as that was, the next one will make you question how many things around you are happening on purpose, and how many times you've been pulled into something much darker without realizing it. I don't really tell people about this story anymore, mostly because when I do, they just kind of look at me like I'm either making it up or exaggerating. But I swear to you, this happened exactly how I'm about to describe it. And the worst part is, I'll never know why it happened. Only that it couldn't have been random. This was back in 2019. I was living in a small town in Arizona, working as a nighttime janitor at a local rec center. It was a weird schedule, but I liked it. No traffic, no bosses hovering over my shoulder, no crowds. Just me, my headphones, and a big empty building. I'd show up around 10 p.m., clean until 4 or 5 in the morning, then head home and crash. The place itself was your standard community center. Gym, pool, basketball courts, daycare room, even a small office wing with cubicles. All single level, kind of spread out. Nothing fancy, and at night it got dead quiet. I mean 0 noise. Sometimes I'd forget there was even a world outside those walls. I had a pretty solid routine. Start in the pool area, then work my way across to the locker rooms, hit the main lobby, and finish near the offices before I clocked out. Nothing ever really changed until one night. It did. It started with the clocks. I was in the gym area, wiping down the bleachers, when I glanced at the wall clock and noticed it said 1:12 a.m. I remember that because I had just checked my phone a few minutes earlier, and it said 12:41. So I double-checked my phone again, and yep, 12:43. Not even close. Figured maybe the batteries were dying. I made a mental note to report it. But then, maybe 20 minutes later, I walked into the daycare room, and that clock said 1:12 too. I checked a third one above the front desk in the lobby. 1:12, exactly the same time, on 3 different analog clocks. I'll be honest, that gave me a weird feeling. Not scary, just off. Like something was trying to get my attention. I even laughed it off in my head, like, okay, weird Twilight Zone moment, but whatever. Then I got to the office wing. Now this part of the building was always my least favorite. The lights were automatic, but sometimes they'd take forever to kick on. You'd walk halfway into the hall before they flickered to life. Always made the shadows feel a little too heavy, but I had my headphones in, music going, so I wasn't too bothered, until I saw the woman. She was standing at the end of the hallway, just outside the last office. Her back was to me, dark hair, shoulder length, wearing what looked like a white or cream-colored dress. Just standing there, not moving. I stopped walking, pulled out one of my earbuds. I was about to say something. Maybe she was lost or needed help, but then the lights flickered, and she was gone, like blinked out. 1 second there, the next gone. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Just stood there staring down the hallway like an idiot. Finally, I walked to the end, heart pounding, and peeked into the office she had been in front of. Empty, dark, no signs of anyone having been there. I told myself I imagined it. Maybe the lights glitched and my eyes played a trick on me. The white wall caught a shadow, something like that, but deep down I knew what I saw, and then it got worse. I started hearing footsteps, not constant, just every now and then, soft ones, like bare feet on tile. I'd be in the locker room scrubbing sinks and hear something in the hallway. When I looked, no one was there. Twice I found doors open that I know I had closed earlier in the night. Once I found one of the office chairs turned to face the wall, even though I hadn't gone into that room at all. And always, the clock said 1:12, even when my phone said otherwise. The final straw happened 2 nights later. I had gotten into the habit of skipping the office wing completely. I didn't want to deal with it, but that night I was behind on my tasks and I had to do a quick trash sweep before leaving. So I grabbed the bin, walked down the hallway, this time humming out loud to make myself feel a little less uneasy. When I reached the last office, I pushed open the door and stopped cold. The woman was there, sitting in the desk chair facing the wall. Same white dress, same dark hair. She didn't move, didn't acknowledge me. I couldn't see her face, just the back of her head. Her posture was stiff, tense, almost like she was listening. My first thought was that someone was messing with me, a coworker playing some elaborate prank. I said, "Hey, you're not supposed to be back here." Nothing. Then she tilted her head, just slightly, not turning to look, just enough to register that she heard me. And then, from behind me, I heard it, a whisper, right in my ear. I couldn't even tell you what it said. It wasn't words, just a sound, like a breath made of static. I turned and ran.
Didn't stop to grab anything, didn't check the other rooms. I sprinted out of that building, jumped in my car and drove home doing 90. I called off the next shift, told them I was sick. Didn't go back for almost a week. When I finally returned, everything looked normal. Clocks were reset, offices were clean. But I noticed one thing I hadn't seen before. In the break room, there was a cork board with old photos pinned to it. Employee events, kids' classes, random flyers. One photo in the bottom corner caught my eye. A group of staff members standing in front of the daycare room, smiling, holding up signs for a fundraising event. And in the back row, near the edge of the frame, was the woman. Same dress, same hair, not smiling, not holding a sign, just standing there. I asked my supervisor who she was. She squinted at the photo and said, "Oh, that's Liz. She worked here years ago. She passed away. I think it was an accident or something." She didn't say much more than that. Just changed the subject.
I've worked there on and off since then, mostly daytime shifts. But I'll never forget that week, the clocks, the footsteps, that name on the photo, and how everything, all of it, always pointed to one thing. 112. Every night. Too many times to be coincidence. A woman in white, clocks stuck at the exact same time, and a whisper no one else could hear. But what happens when the signs aren't just signs, they're counting down to something? I've only told a few people about this, and every time I do, they ask the same question. Why didn't you go to the police? And the truth is, I tried. I really did. But it's hard to explain something like this when you don't even understand it yourself, and all the evidence just disappears the moment you try to prove it. This started about 5 years ago when I was living in Baltimore. I was 25, working overnight stock at a big box store. My hours were brutal, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., but I liked the solitude. Most of the team kept to themselves. We'd all do our sections and leave each other alone unless we needed help unloading a pallet or something. One night I was in the back of the store, stocking kitchen supplies, when I noticed something strange on one of the boxes. It was just a shipping label, but someone had scribbled something over the barcode in pen. It said, 7 more. I didn't think much of it, figured it was part of the product code or a weird note from the warehouse. But I saw it again 2 nights later, this time on a different box in a totally different aisle. Same handwriting. 6 more. That gave me pause. It felt deliberate now, like a countdown. I showed my coworker Marcus, and he laughed it off, said maybe someone was screwing with me, or I had grabbed the same box twice and didn't realize. But the handwriting wasn't printed. It was written in thick black marker, uneven like it had been rushed. A few nights later, I was in the break room grabbing a soda when I opened the fridge and saw something taped to the inside of the door. A scrap of paper. It just said, 5 more. No name. No explanation. Now I was genuinely weirded out. I asked around, but no one else had seen it. I took a picture of the note and threw it away. I figured maybe it was some creepy inside joke or one of the guys hazing a new hire. I tried to shrug it off, but then it started following me home. I lived in a studio apartment about 15 minutes from the store. Quiet complex, mostly older tenants. I'd usually get home around 6:30 in the morning and go straight to bed. One day, I got up in the afternoon and went to grab my mail and found an envelope sitting right on top of my doormat. No stamp, no name. Inside was another note. 4 more. That's when I knew something was really wrong. I called the front office and asked if anyone had been by my apartment. Maintenance, package drop, anything. They said no. I checked with neighbors. No one saw anyone near my place. I still don't know how they got in the building. That night, I went into work early and checked every break room, every locker, every aisle I'd worked the previous shift. Nothing. I started keeping my head down. Worked fast, ate lunch in my car. I didn't want to give whoever it was the satisfaction of seeing me paranoid, but it didn't matter. The next morning, I opened my glove compartment and found a sticky note on top of my insurance papers. 3 more. I hadn't even told anyone about the other notes. I hadn't posted online, hadn't texted anything. I was terrified. I went straight to the police station and showed them the photos I had taken. They listened, wrote a report, and told me to keep an eye out. That was it. No cameras in the parking lot, no physical threats, no leads. Just vague creepiness. When I got home later that day, I walked into my apartment and stopped cold. On my kitchen counter, just sitting there in plain view, was another piece of paper. 2 more. Nothing else in the apartment had been touched, no signs of forced entry, nothing missing. Just that note. I slept with a knife under my pillow that night. I pushed my dresser against the door. Every sound made me jump, but nothing happened. The next night at work, I was walking past the seasonal aisle when I saw a piece of paper sticking out from behind a stack of fake pumpkins. I don't even know why I pulled it out, but I did. One more. That was it. I was done. I quit that night. Didn't even finish my shift. I told my manager I was having a personal emergency, packed up my stuff and left, but the story doesn't end there. A week later, I was still staying at a friend's place. I hadn't been back to my apartment since. I was thinking about breaking my lease entirely. I didn't feel safe. I kept thinking maybe I'd find a job in another state. Start over. That night, around 11 p.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. They left a voicemail. It was just a whisper, but I swear to God it said 0. That was the last message I ever got. No more notes, no calls, no sightings, nothing. It all just stopped. I waited. Days turned into weeks. I moved into a new apartment across town under a new lease. Got a different job, changed my routine. Whoever it was, whatever they wanted, they didn't follow. But to this day, I wonder, what would have happened if I had gotten one more note? What was I counting down to? What was supposed to happen at 0? Because I think, whatever it wasn't random.